Gideon's Army on Choosing and Being Chosen by John Carter. So he brought down the people unto the water, and the Lord said unto Gideon, Everyone that lappeth of the water with his tongue, as a dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by himself. Likewise, everyone that boweth down upon his knees to drink. I owe the inspiration for this piece to Grant Smith, who first articulated this metaphor to me in a different context. It is my hope that this essay will prod him to share his own very interesting thoughts on this theme. It's been a rough few years. With zero warning outside those few of us who lurk on the chans to monitor the internet's id, the planet locked down under threat of an unprecedented pandemic. We all know what happened. I won't relitigate it here. It's almost boring to talk about it now. We all know that it was all fake and gay, the mother of all psychological operations. The world was shut down, and we were imprisoned in our domiciles, in some cases literally, in most cases as a fiat accompli, as everywhere worth going had been locked up and wrapped with caution tape. Socially distanced in solitary confinement, our devices were used to feed an unending doom scroll of panic porn into our optical nerves, shutting down our neocortices and leaving us at the mercy of the nudge units and behavioral insight teams yanking on our lizard brains in service of a global criminal network of would-be techno-deities with man boobs and terrible fashion sense. We've been tested as never before. And yet, despite all of this, some of us resisted. The Bad Cat put it very well. Here's a quote from Bad Catitude, a link to his article, Rationalizing Rationality. There's a funny thing about smart and rational. Sure, both are good things, but it's also worth remembering that both can be deeply misleading predictors of how one will perform in a crisis. They threw everything they had at us, every dirty psychological trick, every form of underhanded emotional manipulation, every vile tool in the social engineer's sociopathic toolbox. Most of the species fell for it. They believed everything and went into deep panic. Many still haven't come out. To this day, you see people driving alone wearing masks, which they'll no doubt continue wearing until enough plastic fibers seep into their lung tissue from their life-saving facial filters that they die from COPD. Most have come to their senses somewhat, but they are still lined up in droves to get their armful of magic science juice. The consequences of that mass experiment in horizontal gene transfer are still being worked out. They don't look so good. The hideous implications are beginning to dawn on the globalists' experimental subjects, and the mood is turning ugly, as well it should. Meanwhile, those who were most vocal in their support for injecting the entire human species with a novel genetic potion, who demanded that this be done whether people wanted it or not, because, oh my God, there's a virus! Won't someone please think of the old people? Are having their psyche shattered in real time by cogdis slamming like a pickaxe through their self-image as the smartest good little boys and girls in the room, and the nasty reality that they were wrong about everything, while those awful, ultra-extreme, alt-right-wing QAnon conspiracy theory believing, malinformation spreading, hate-speaking, sexist, misogynist, racist, homophobic, epistemological terrorists were, well, you know, correct. It's a beautiful thing to watch the mid-wit regime flatterers sputter and short-circuit a gleaming line of silver around a very dark and threatening cloud. The point I want to make here, though, is this. If you're reading this, there's a good chance you're in that small, select group that withstood all of it. You resisted the propaganda, telling you to be afraid of the virus, and you went outside. You shrugged off the social pressure to wear a mask everywhere you went, and breathed freely and smiled. Most importantly, you refused the jab. They tried to bribe you with cash payments, lottery tickets, and free burgers. You said no. They tried to shame you into it. Sure, you might not be at risk from the coof of doom, but think of grandma. Think of fat people. Think of immunocompromised children. You still said no. They banned you from restaurants, live music venues, international travel. Still, you refused. Your friends and family, lost to the psycho-sorcerers, ostracized you. Yet you held firm. They came for your jobs, careers you invested your entire life in. Many of you caved at that point, as well you might if you had families whose security depended upon your paycheck. And you got the injection under protest. Those of you who did this have earned a special kind of respect. For there's a heroism in taking a sip of the poison chalice when the evil duke has threatened to throw your children into the streets to starve. Yet many of you still refused. Do what you will, you told the black wizards and their horde of misshapen goblin enforcers. Lock me up as you will. Ostracize me as you will, exile me as you will, impoverish me as you will, even murder me as you will. Nothing you can do will make me comply. You understood the essence of free will, the fundamental lie that tyranny is based upon. If you're willing to give up everything, there is nothing a would-be tyrant can do to force compliance. Kneel, or it shall be your head. Then take it. The tyrant may then take your head, but he did not and could not make you kneel. Maybe you understood this without being told. Maybe you read the Stoic philosophers or were inspired by the Christian saints. Maybe you're just ornery. In any case, now that you've been through this, you understand this basic law of creation at the bone-deep level that only experience can bring. It is impossible to compromise the free will of any entity that refuses to let you do this. They have to agree. They have to let you. If they don't, there's nothing you or anyone else can do about it. So now, here you are. You've been tested as few have ever been tested before. All of us have, and most of us have been found wanting. As the bad cat said, there's no shame in failing a test with a 10% pass rate. But there is glory in passing it, and I want you to bask in that glory for a moment, for you now stand among the elect. Having passed through this purifying inferno, you now know your inner strength of spirit with certainty. Before this, you might have suspected or hoped that your soul would be made of such adamantine alloy, but you couldn't know. Now you do. Perhaps we should thank the tyrants for stealing these years from our lives. After all, they made us what we are now. Personally, I think we should thank them with gibbets and gallows, but I'm old school that way. In any case, you're not alone in this. Look around at the battlefield, littered with the fallen and crowded with those kneeling in surrender, and see all those still standing, proud and defiant amidst the carnage and cowardice. Those are your brothers and sisters in Gideon's army now. You're a motley crew of vagabonds, to be sure. We all drew our will to resistance from different wells. Some aletheologists, scientists of the spirit, for whom science is not a mere profession, body of knowledge, set of procedures and methods, or worst of all, a hollow and cynical game of status seeking, but a passionate commitment to the light of truth and reason, whose war cry is, Et pour si moeve. Their contempt for the transparent lies and naked fabrications of the false scientists powered their resistance, while their own incisive clarity in data analysis and scenario extrapolation provided an essential service in continually reminding the rest of us that we're not crazy, everyone else is. Some are mystics, the hippies and Reiki healers, the acupuncturists and astrologers, the tarot card readers and shamans, the conspiracy schizos raving about nanobots self-assembling in our bloodstreams, and soul-hacking 5G antennae. Their intuition guided them through this cognitive battlefield, leading them to the right answers for reasons that they themselves often cannot explain. Reasons that strike others as batshit crazy nonsense. Yet still they were guided to the right answer. Some are frogs, the rightist dissidents, the vitalist bodybuilders, the Nietzscheans and anarchs and armed libertarians, the Civnat tradcaths and neo-pagan ethnonats, the loose online choreos of men in whom something primal and ferocious has been stirring for years now in rebellion against the enervating narcotic of the digital longhouse. They had long ago learned that the corporate media lies, the state lies, the mainline churches lie, and the captured academy lies most of all. They had learned to be suspicious, to trust the ancient instincts they had spent so long reactivating, and held strong even when prominent influencers from within their own networks made common cause with the enemy. Most are simply ordinary people, fathers and mothers, sons and daughters, workers and students who for whatever reason said no and held by it. Whatever branch or MOS, you're one of them now. One of the elect. One of the very, very few who were tested and found to be strong. One of the heads of the Hydra. A link to the Great Convergence, the story of the Hydra. Highly recommend it. Conscripted, whether you want it or not, in Gideon's army. The question now is what comes next? World War COVID is essentially over. It was a draw. The enemy got their product into billions of arms, but was stopped short of full victory, fell back, and is not likely to try again. In truth, their war machine is on its back foot. What gains they made were at the expense of a vast quantity of irretrievably immolated social capital, irreversibly turning the ratchet of lost credibility in the minds of their victims. The embarrassing clown show that just wrapped up at Davos is sign enough of that. They're chattering at one another as though their plans are still plausible, even as they hide behind lines of soldiers of dubious loyalty and try to distract themselves with thousands of sex workers. Davos man is done. He just hasn't admitted it to himself yet. The real question is, what do we do? Because we are an army now, leaderless and centerless, yes, less like a Roman legion and more akin to a swarm of the sea peoples, but an army nonetheless. What do we do with an army of millions of souls forged from spiritual steel? Well, the world is sick and broken. In breaking it, those who broke it have lost the mandate of heaven. They are no longer fit to rule. The longer we pretend they are, the more broken the world will become. Perhaps it's just me, although I don't think it is, but I think it's time Gideon's army went on the offense. The Aztecs believed that if they didn't cut the hearts out of their sacrificial victims, the sun wouldn't rise. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think you should share this post. Like,